Okay, so this week I am going to be tackling a problem that I have had for approximately a year and a half now. And that is that I have no good bags that fit in my bicycle bag. So I have had these bicycle bags for approximately 3 years now. They travel with me all over the world. They've been in Switzerland, they've been in Montreal, and they are now in Copenhagen. I do all of my grocery shopping on bike, and that means that I need to carry my groceries from the grocery store out into these bike bags. And while I have several other bags that I use to do this, the problem is that once I get them out here, they never fit in these bags, and I'm always having to rearrange my groceries and kind of jam them into the right shape so that my shoulder bag can fit easily in my saddlebags. So I've decided that the easiest way around that is probably to make a bag with the perfect dimensions to fit inside of this. Naturally, I've had these bags for about 3 years. I've been grocery shopping here on a regular basis for a year and a half, and I still haven't gotten around to making those bags. But today, that is going to change. Naturally, when I was thinking about what I wanted this bag to look like, I was trying to think about how I could make it something historically related, because of course that's what interests me. And I tried Googling history bounding bags, Victorian bags, all these different things, and Victorian bags brought up a couple options, and they were all the sort of carpet bag style that we see, for example, in Mary Poppins, or these tiny little cute purses, and I was like, none of this is really going to carry enough stuff for my groceries, honestly. Like, I need something quite large, and really those bags weren't exactly my aesthetic either. So I decided to take this project in a different direction, and I thought maybe I'll just make something that looks like a historical garment but functions as a bag. And that kind of got my creative juices flowing, so I was trying to brainstorm what are some of the eras that I really like, and from those eras, what are some design elements that would transfer over well from being a 3D garment into being a almost 2D bag. So I did some drawings, many different drawings of some different styles, and I have to admit, guys, drawing is absolutely not my forte. I am no Bob Ross, but here are some of my first draft drawings, the style ideas that I was going through, and then from there I chose the 2 designs that I liked the most, and so this is what I came up with. So this is meant to be sort of a classic men's suit. I did use a lot of photos from Vintage Bursch for inspiration because he has some absolutely on point vintage menswear style. I will give him credit down in the links below. So this is what I came up with here. So we've got the suit and tie sort of look with a waistcoat underneath. And then the other image that I thought worked really well and coordinated really well with the menswear pattern was this, which is a late Victorian sort of 1890s style bicycle suit. And the inspiration for this is mainly this photo here. So now comes the task of trying to actually realize this bag. Looking at what fabric I want to use for this, I have one stash that is just fabric, and then one stash that is just corgis. No, not really. Come on, honey. Come here. Anyway, and then I have one stash that is used garments. These are things I've picked up secondhand or that somebody was donating. So that's what I'm working with here, and I'm thinking, so for the menswear one, I'm thinking we're gonna go with more subdued colors. So of course, like a white for the shirt underneath, and then dark grays matching for the waistcoat and suit. And then like a fun pop of color probably for the tie. But I think I will get a start on the men's side here and just choose one of these grays, whichever one looks like it is the most vintagey of the patterns. That's what's happening right now. I'm gonna choose those fabrics, and then we're gonna go ahead and start breaking this down into individual pattern pieces. You know, we have an entire house that you could lay down in. 3 levels, main level, basement, second story. And yet, here she is, here with me, on my clothes. Oh. Here I have the original pattern, and here I've just broken it down into all of its components. So we have the collar, the jacket underneath, waistcoat with the lapel right there, outer jacket, suit jacket with its collar. Because this line here is curved, I've actually decided to do the lapel as a separate piece, whereas here the lapel is actually going to be just included in that pattern piece because that is a straight line. But I wanted to give sort of the illusion that this was a bit more 3D than it is in reality, so that's why I kind of curved this line here, because it makes it look a bit more like there's someone actually wearing it. I drew it out with straight lines first and it looked super goofy. So curving these makes it look a bit more realistic, but it means that I need to sew this lapel as a separate piece. I mean, maybe there's a way to do it all as one piece, but I don't know how to do it. So there we go, that's all broken down, and now we just need to cut these out of their respective fabrics and start assembling them. So what I'm doing is I'm taking, and in order to line up this lapel here where it should be, I'm just taking and lining up this original pattern on the body, weighing that down. So I wanted to get sort of a sneak peek of what this is starting to look like, because I am impatient and I need instant gratification. So my little serotonin burst for the moment was to sort of lay these somewhat finished pieces down on the pattern to see what it looks like, and of course they're not pressed or anything at the moment, but it's shaping up. I'm going to go press these, and then I'm going to get started on the inner waistcoat. Alright guys, hello, I'm back day 2, and we are coming outside on my lovely balcony today because it is officially November in Copenhagen, and that means that the sun will not come out again for approximately 4 more months. So this is what it looks like here today. This is a sunny day for us. It will not get any brighter than this, and as someone who likes to film her videos with natural lighting, I am starting to second guess my life decisions. Let's take a look at what I did yesterday off camera. So first of all, I got these pressed, and now they're looking much better because they are holding their shape and they're not curling up, so they're sitting more or less flat, which is great. These lapels are not sewn down, they're just finally behaving themselves. So that was the first thing that I got done, and then the next thing I worked on was the waistcoat inner lapels, and those are looking great. This is so much nicer fabric to work with. This fabric here is the literal worst. If I so much as look at it, it starts fraying. So that's getting ignored. So I took that pattern piece that I made, I cut out 4 of them, I sewed 2 together each, and then I folded them to create this lapel right here and ironed it down, and that's basically all I did. I then went through and ironed this down because it will overlap here and have some buttons. I've actually done the same thing on this, except here you can see I actually went ahead and stitched down that part, and then I just went ahead and sewed these guys down. So you saw that I had cut them out, so I just sewed them together, right sides facing, turned them inside out, gave them a good iron, and then did some quick top stitching. And these are going to be the spear points of the spear point collar. I'm looking at them now, I'm not actually sure that they are quite pointy enough for a proper spear point collar. I might have to go back and actually make them even bigger and more exaggerated. But I want to take a look at what it all looks like together before I make that decision. And then also cut out this triangle here, which is just supposed to be the shirt front. And then we need to make a tie that will go here. And then I also worked a little bit on the inside of the bag. This is actually just originally a bag that I had laying around that I had taken to use the fabric. But you can see here, this is the factory serged edge over here. But it was in fact much too big, so I just cut it down over here. And this is a very strange sort of construction of bag that I had never used before. I had to modify it a little bit, and I'm still not entirely sure I understand how they constructed this bag, because my brain does not want to make a bag this way. There's some weird corner pinching, sewing, stitching stuff going down. I did figure it out enough to resize this bag, but I think for the next bag that I make, I am not going to use this technique. Now it should be the correct size to fit inside this bag, and then I went ahead and added some quick and dirty pockets, nothing too fancy. This is my cell phone pocket, fits my cell phone very nicely. And then this is my wallet pocket, which also fits. I have a very small wallet, so this actually fits my wallet very well. And then on the other side, I went ahead and did this sort of pocket flap, floating flap that goes on the top of the bag. You can see it's stitched down here, so it's not going anywhere. And this just has various miscellaneous little compartments. It's not a work of art, but I actually just didn't have, after I trimmed this bag down, the original bag, I didn't have very much fabric left over. I kind of just had enough to do some quick pockets. So I think on the second bag, I'm going to do a little bit more elaborate interior, make it a little bit fancier, but I'll also be constructing it from scratch, so that's actually going to be easier. The next step I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take and pin all of these miscellaneous pieces together on here. This is sort of my template. So I'm going to take and pin all the pieces down on here and pin them on together. See how it all looks, see if there are any big problems that stand out to me. Yeah, let's do it. So this is what it's looking like now once I've gotten it more or less assembled. Of course, there are going to be buttons here. In reality, I'm also going to put, one button here. You can see it through this where the necktie is supposed to be, so I have to figure that out. I think that's actually the next step I'm going to do. I'm going to go look for some inspirational photos to see what exactly this necktie should look like. I do know I want to try and figure out how to have a collar pin that sits under this necktie. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that, but that would be something I would love to include in here. And then after I figured that out, I'm going to cut out the sides and the back out of this fabric here, making the decision to have this inner waistcoat be out of a separate fabric. While it's maybe not necessarily as historically accurate, because generally speaking, the look I was originally going for is a three-piece suit, so the waistcoat, the jacket, and the pants all would have been out of the same fabric, but because I was worried that I didn't have enough of this outer fabric, I made a decision to go ahead and switch this out for a different fabric, and I like the way that it looks because it gives it a little bit more texture and depth, which I quite like. But when I'm going to make the sides and the back, they will be out of this darker outer fabric. So Let's go looking for a necktie. Thanks to Google, I've been looking it up and it seems like I have two options for a 1920s appropriate tie knot. And that's the 4-in-hand knot and the Windsor knot. And apparently the Windsor knot gives a much bulkier knot at the neck, and that's maybe not quite what I'm looking for. I mean, I want to be three-dimensional, but maybe not that three-dimensional. So I'm gonna start with the 4-in-hand knot. I've got my trusty fake neck here. I'm gonna tie the knot around that guy. Whoops, my tie just fell on the floor. And I've got my tie, and so I'm just going to practice tying this knot around this guy and see what it looks like. So let's give it a shot. Okay, so it definitely took some fiddling around, but I finally got this collar and tie section looking how I want it to look more or less. So they do run, in fact, all the way under because that creates a bit of bulk and dimension here, which I'm quite pleased with. I got the knot smoothed down to the point that I want it to be at. I've run it under. At the moment, it's not trimmed, it's just running all the way under, but in reality I will snip it off right about here to eliminate some bulk. And then I'm thinking I will probably need to tack these down, maybe not at the very point because I do want them to look like they're mobile, but I don't want them to actually be able to do this. So I'm thinking I will take a short thread right about here and tack it down to the white fabric underneath, but with a little bit of leeway so that these can flap, but you know, only a reasonable amount of flappage. Now becomes the long process of sort of attaching all of these various layers to each other so that they don't shift around. I do believe I'm going to start with the collar and tie first, so the innermost layers, and then I guess just work my way to the outermost layers. That seems to be the most reasonable. And then once I have all of this attached together, then I'll be able to attach the other sides of the bag, and then we'll attach the inside to the outside, and then we'll have a bag. 3, and all that is left to do is to put together the other 3 sides of the bag, attach them to the inside of the bag, throw some handles on, and see how she fits. So here's what we're trying to do today. The challenge is going to be fitting all of those sides out of what is left of this poor jacket. I'm thinking that I'll be able to get the other large side out of this. I kind of saved it for that purpose. And then for the 2 smaller sides, I'm pretty confident I can get one out of this sleeve, but the problem is I only have half of one sleeve left. So for the other side, it's going to involve some creative piecing together. I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to pull it from, but that will be today's project. And then once that's done, basically just need to attach the inside to the outside and that'll be it. So that's the plan for today, and because it is once again a cloudy day in Copenhagen and there is no sun to be had in my house, let's use some YouTube magic to jump ahead to the middle of that process. Here they are. So the other main back piece, you can see I did try to keep the collar in there, but you can see I also gave myself plenty of room on the bottom here. If I need to cut the collar off, I will have extra room to deal with that. And then here we have the 2 side pieces. This one is out of the sleeve. This one is out of the front. You can see it actually has a seam here. So there are the pieces, and now let's sew it together. So here she is. I may have been feeling sassy last night and added in a little welt pocket here, just to the left of the lapel, and that's kind of to imitate the pocket that we see often on suits of this era. I might throw a little handkerchief in there as that was the fashion, or I might just put my cell phone in there because it does in fact fit. So I've got all the sides sewn together, and now I just need to add a bottom on, and then we will throw some straps on the bag and attach them. So I thought it would be kind of neat if these straps looked like the suspenders or braces that men used to wear of the time. So what I did is I cut down a pair of braces that I had laying around. I was not going to use them as suspenders anyway because they are clip-ons and I much prefer the actual button-on type. So I had picked these up hoping to convert them at one point to button-on suspenders, but for now they will do for the handles of this bag. They are, however, elastic, so I did decide to go ahead and back them with an actual strap that I pulled off of an old bag. So I just pinned them down, sewed them on, and then from there I attached them to the bag. I did reinforce where they will be attached because this is going to be carrying a moderate load of groceries. So there's a reinforcement strip here that is double thick of this cotton. So that's 3 layers of cotton. And so now this is complete, and we're just going to attach the inner layer to the outer layer. So a quick wrap up. Come here, beautiful. No. Easy. Okay, now you gonna join me for my outro? Are you gonna wrap things up with me? All in all, I am super happy with the way that the bag turned out on the exterior. I think it looks really nice. I do wish it looked a little bit more vintage, but I think I did pretty well considering the format that I was working with and the limitations to what I could create in a bag form. I would have liked to get around to making a collar pin, but I just couldn't quite find the materials that I was looking for. Do have plans to add that in the future. I also have some modifications that I would make to the interior of the bag, mostly structural modifications, as well as some changes in the order of operations, just to make the assembly and the finishing a bit easier, go a bit quicker, and look a bit more polished. Definitely have a list of improvements to make for round 2, which is going to be the 1890s cycling outfit as a bag. If you want to see how that progresses, click subscribe and follow me for Chronic Crafting Chronicles. That's a mouthful to say. I hope this inspired you to create something similar, to look at what historical eras inspire you, what are the key factors of those silhouettes, and challenge yourself to create something that takes those aesthetics but perhaps twists them into an unusual format. I know for me, I would love to find a way to make a bustle gown into a similar sort of bag, but that's a little bit trickier because that relies so much on the silhouette that is going to be a challenge for future Shannon. I think this is actually a great project for sewers of all levels, especially you historical customers who have plenty of scraps laying around from past projects. This is a great way to use them. Also, if you're a beginning sewer, this is a great project because the stakes are really low. It's okay if you mess up a little bit. It doesn't take a lot of fabric. It doesn't have to be expensive fabric. It's also a very small project. Could be a great project to try some new techniques, things like collars, lapels, welt pockets. These are all things that are really great to try in this project. It definitely kind of helps you get a feel for some of these things. Feel free to click subscribe to follow me in my future endeavors. I'm definitely going to be tackling bag number 2 in the coming weeks, so I'm looking forward to that. Next week's project is a pair of bicycle bloomers, an actual garment that I can wear, which is going to be quite fun, and I will see you next week, guys. Bye! Always leaf blowing. Stop blowing your leaves! I swear, I'm in the house all morning, and are they doing anything? No, it's perfectly quiet out here. And the second I step outside, everyone in this neighborhood is like, oh, okay, she's ready, go, start all the machines. Make as much noise as possible. What? I said make as much noise as possible! Oh boy. Okay, now, go tell them to stop making noise. Aha, there we go. Dong. This is a little bit out of order, and I probably should have written a script. I don't know what she's been into, but she looks absolutely filthy. What are you doing? Oh, did you find a pine cone? What are you so excited about? Are you excited about this pine cone? Are you excited about this pine cone? It's like a cartoon.